Employees versus contractors. This is Jamie Ward. I am the founder and CEO of People Wave Consulting, an HR consultancy group. And I want to come to today to talk to you about the big question that employers face is to hire an employee or to hire a contractor. And here are some considerations that we need to think about in this process. First of all, let's start with employees. Employees are wonderful workers. They come on board. They are on our payroll. They work hand in hand with us, whether it be remote, hybrid, or in person. And they are usually getting benefits. They usually have filled out W-4 and I-9 information. We follow federal, state, and local guidelines for setting up their onboarding as well as setting up the employee experience. And at the end of the year, they get a W-2. The things we have to consider with that are if they're going to be salaried or they're going to be exempt, and how that works and how that plays out in terms of job descriptions, OSHA guidelines, and all the things of that nature. So it's pretty straightforward, and it's pretty open to discussion about the different ins and outs of that area, but it's a pretty easy decision to make there. Now, the challenge is when we just, as an organization, to say, hey, I want to bring on a contractor. Well, there are two types. One is a contractor that is part of an LLC or C Corp or an S Corp, and they provide a service through the auspices of that business. And in that scenario, you probably sign a contractor as a business owner, and then you follow up with paying an invoice as they submit them to you on a monthly or bi-monthly basis, whatever that may look like for your purposes. So that's the first one. That's a pretty easy win. That's a pretty easy guess. A lot of times you'll see this with people buying outside marketing services, sales services, those sorts of things, where they need the extra support, but they don't need someone on site as an employee to handle that work for them. Or they may even come on site occasionally in that scenario. So something to be mindful of as a resource that you as an employer could use. It's one of the safest resources to use, frankly. The second one for the contractor status is an individual contractor. An individual contractor is someone who comes on board in a contracting arrangement, and they will invoice you, or basically at the end of the year, they will receive a 1099 for taxation purposes, not a W-2. And the 1099 is basically whatever you have paid to them for that calendar year so that they can submit for tax claims and things of that nature. The challenge here is determining, is this person really a contractor, or is someone been misaligned in a contractor status and should have been considered an employee? One of the things we have to be mindful of is there's a lot of litigation around the contractor versus the employee paradigm. And what we as thoughtful, conscientious employers need to consider is, are we making the right decision and are we classifying this person appropriately? Because again, there is litigation behind this. So one of the things we in the HR profession like to use is the IRS testing. Our friends at the IRS have given us some great testing items that we can use to figure out whether or not someone should be a contractor or an employee. And the testing is pretty simple. It's called Common Law Rules, and you can look it up on the IRS website. And there are three types. There's behavioral, financial, and type of relationship testing. And so for the first one, behavioral is pretty self-explanatory. Is the company behaving like an employer with that person and dictating how they should do their work? If they are not, that's a consideration in favor of this person being a contractor, i.e., that contractor doesn't need to be at the 9 a.m. meeting every morning for staff roll call. That person can come do the work whenever and then turn it in and get paid for it based on the hours that they work in consideration for the organization. There's some leeway there, but that's the basic idea behind it. A manager doesn't control when they do their work. The manager just asks for the end product. So that's the first one. The second one is financial. Is the contractor submitting reimbursements to you? that might be a consideration where maybe they should have been an employee. Are other benefit financial aspects controlled by the employer? Are you getting paid through payroll? That's a big red flag. They should not be being paid through payroll for their time worked in the organization. Third is the type of relationship. Are they receiving benefits? Is there insurance being provided to this person? Are they being provided time off? Then that wouldn't be considered a employee contractor situation. That would be considered an employee consideration. So these are the things we need to think about. It's really what you as an employer need at the time, but we got to be smart about how we bring in the additional help. I always say before, if you don't need it, don't contract it out unless you use a service. I prefer services in general, just because again, they're under an LLC. They're under an S Corp or a C Corp. They provide a service and then they invoice you and then you pay the bill. And that's it. You sign a contract and you're done. So think about what you need. Contractors individually can be phenomenally useful. Fractional consulting, interim work is a wonderful thing. Getting a project over the deadline is okay as well. But be mindful of what you do as an employer. Managers may not know that they can't treat contractors like employees and make the same demands that they make on employees. So we have to be thoughtful, we have to be considerate, and we have to be understanding of that relationship. I urge any manager who's starting out to really read up on what a contractor is so they have in the back of their mind so they don't make situations more difficult by creating an employer versus employee relationship when there really shouldn't be one based on the intent of the original contract setup. Well, I hope this is good enough information for you all today. Let me know in the comments if you have any questions. I'm glad to answer them. Feel free to reach out to me at jamie@peoplewave.com. I'll be glad to answer your questions there. I hope you all have a wonderful week and a wonderful end of your summer. Take care. Bye-bye.